My design for the cat condo consists of 3 levels. The ground floor is what I consider the actual condo unit itself. It's a simple box with an opening in the front and top. The middle shelf will be covered with faux grass and will include 2 small scratching posts, and there will be a larger scratching post that leads to the top shelf that I'm calling the rooftop deck. I wanted to use mostly leftover lumber for this build, so I pulled from my scraps pile. I did, however, buy a small sheet of 1/2-inch birch plywood and 1/2-inch MDF that I'll use to build the ground level box. I first cut these 1/2-inch sheets of birch and MDF down to 16-inch squares. I started with the front panel. The first step was to cut out the doorway opening. I began by roughly cutting out some material with my jigsaw. Then I used a flush trim bit on my router to cut the opening down to its final size. Next, I marked where the 3 cutout lines will go. I very quickly threw together a jig that will help guide my router and keep all 3 cutouts the same. This project gave me an excuse to use the plunge base on my router for the first time, and it was a lot of fun. The base allows for 3 preset depths, so I could gradually work my way into the wood, cutting 1/3 of the way deeper with each pass. I then moved on to the top of the box. I measured 2 inches from each side and used a roll of tape to draw a circle with a diameter a little over 6 inches wide. I used a spade bit to drill a pilot hole in the center of the circle. Then I not so gracefully cut out the circle with my jigsaw. I filed and sanded the edges to remove any jaggedness. Luckily it's MDF, so it was pretty easy to smooth out. The box is going to be assembled entirely with pocket hole screws. It's quick and easy, and they shouldn't be visible once everything's in place. I used scraps of 3/4 inch trim to make the slats that will line one side of the box. I started by roughly trimming them down to a more manageable length. The face of this lumber has a round-over edge, so I ripped off a thin slice from one side of each piece to give me a nice clean edge to work with. Then I cut them down to their final width, which is 1.5 inches. There are 9 slats total, and each needs 2 pocket hole screws on the top and 2 on the bottom, so there was a lot of pocket hole drilling. And then sanding. Once all of my box pieces were ready to go, I moved on to finishings. Since this build incorporates many different finishes, it was easier to work on them individually before assembling. All of the MDF was primed and painted. The birch plywood was sealed with a clear water-based polyurethane. Once the pieces were dry, it was time to assemble. I made the mistake of attaching the back slat first. I later removed it and worked from the front to the back to give myself room to drive in the screws. Each slat is 3/4 of an inch apart, so I could use a spear slat as a spacer. Next up is the middle shelf. I used 3/4 inch pine to make the top and side. I painted the top of the shelf black and then mounted the grass to it. I found an inexpensive grass mat online that I cut to size. I decided to make a cutout for the side of the shelf to add another bit of circular geometry, so I used a scrap of MDF to create a template. I taped the template onto the pine using flat double-sided tape and cut the shape into the pine using my router with a flush trim bit riding against the template's edge. The scratching posts were pretty simple. I cut down some scraps of 1.5 inch by 1.5 inch Douglas fir and wrapped them with rope. The rooftop deck is a small perching shelf supported by a long panel that runs from the top of the box all the way up. I cut down some pine for this back panel. I used the roundover bit on my router to soften the edges and give the panel a more finished feel. I stained the pine an ashy brown and attached it first to the box. Then to the middle shelf. Once the back panel was secure, I installed the top deck. I had a scrap piece of 2.5 inch PVC pipe that I used for the last scratching post. I had some help with this one. I filled in the pocket holes on the slats with wood filler and did some painting touch-ups. I found these metal furniture legs online. The taper gives them a bit of a mid-century flair, which I think works well with this design. Finally, it was time for the ladder, or ramp. I used a scrap of 3/4 inch oak plywood and wrapped it in some of the leftover rope. Once that was done, it was time to bring it all inside and hand the keys over to the new homeowner.